Hi Oli. Today I'm going to read to you um, a little bit of a book called A Little History of Literature. ¿Ok? Probablemente no vayas a entender nada, pero no importa. ¿Ya? Ya. What is literature? Imagine like Imagine that like Robinson Crusoe, you are marooned for the rest of your days on a desert island. What one book would you most want to have with you? That is a question asked on one of the longest running and most loved programs on BBC Radio Desert Island Discs. Broadcast also on the BBC World's website, it is listened to across the globe. The question is one of two that are put to that week's guests after we have heard snatches of the 8 pieces of music they would take to the island. The castaway is allowed at one luxury, I think. Ask your mom. What will it be? Answers are usually very ingenious. At least a couple of guests have chosen cyanide pills, for instance, and another chose the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. Then they are asked which book they would like, in addition to the Bible or any other equivalent religious volume. And the works of Shakespeare, which are already on the island, presumably left by the previous occupant who chose the pill. I've listened to the program for 50 years now. It's been running since 1942, and much more often than not, the guest chooses a great work of literature to keep them company for the rest of their lonely lives. In recent years, Jane Austen, interestingly, has been the most popular author. More of her and on Robinson Crusoe later. And on virtually every one of the thousands of programs aired, the chosen book has been a work of literature that the castaway has already read. This points to some important truths about literature. First, obviously, that we regard it as one of the most important things in our lives. Secondly, and although we are said to consume literature, unlike the food on our dinner plate, it is still there after we have consumed it. And in most cases, it's just as appetizing as it was the first time around. My own choice went on the program some years ago as a novel, Thackeray's Vanity Fair, which, since I had spent years editing and writing about it, I must have read at least 100 times. Yet still, like my favorite music, it gives me pleasure whenever I revisit it. Rereading is one of the great pleasures that literature offers us. The great works of literature are inexhaustible. That is one of the things that makes them great. However often you go back to them, they will always have something new to offer. What you're holding is, as the title says, a little history. But literature is not a little thing. There is a hugely more of it than any of us will read in a lifetime. At best, what we can put together is an intelligent sample. And the most important decision to make is how to assemble our selection. This little history is not a manual. Read this. But advice along the lines of, you may find this valuable because many others have, but at the end of the day, you must decide for yourself. That's all. Te quiero mucho, Oli. Besitos.